And we are live, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. This meeting of the Intergovernmental Legislative Relations Committee will come to order. It is 3 o'clock on Wednesday, June 4th. Um, we aren't going to be voting on any business, just hearing reports today. Councilors Spiebelkorn, Pena, and are here, and then CAO Single and DCAO Wayland are excused. I think Mr. Anderson will be on soon. With that, let's go to item agenda A, reports from the state lobbyists on special session. Mr. Thompson, you want to start?
Yes. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Probably a couple of weeks ago, there started to be a very persistent rumor about the makings of a special session. A lot of it was based upon things that might be happening from a federal funding perspective. So I think a lot of it was to get ready for what might come months from now. And then there was also talk, and perhaps Mr. Park has heard that there was also talk about some things related to crime and policy. In the last week, that talk has just completely dissipated. And I don't really know why it's dissipated. Some people have suggested it's because some of the threats that were manifesting relative to federal funding were like slowed down, but I don't know this stuff well enough to really know if that's the case. I do know from visiting with legislators, like the worst time to try and get people to assemble is in July when a hotel room costs $400. So you can imagine the cost of just the individual citizen legislators of being there. So I haven't heard much about it since, and I don't know, Mr. Park, if you've heard anything.
No, Joe, the information I've got dovetails exactly with Mr. Thompson. I will say that both of those issues continue to be at the forefront of both the executive and the legislators. They are watching what's happening in Washington. They are very curious and watching with respect into particular Medicaid costs, other state funding all across the board. Simultaneously, the governor has been pretty consistent in her concerns about addressing public safety, in particular juvenile crime. But those drum beats have died down a little bit. I think some folks, in particular with the federal funding, are adopting a little bit of a more wait and see. I know that there's a push in the federal government to have some budget stuff done by the 4th of July. So we should have some more information, better information sometime around the 4th of July holiday. But if there is to be anything done, I suspect it will probably, and this is pure speculation, I want to be really clear, this is just my guess, is it would probably be pushed back to sometime in August or the early fall, when people can operate with, I think, broader understanding of what the actual impacts are, and address some of the public safety as well. That's just a guess, though.
And the only thing I'll finish with, Madam Chair, is just that in anticipation of some of these conversations, the legislature has taken action. Like they did create 2 subcommittees. One is like a federal funding subcommittee. That's pretty interesting. That's chaired by former HAFC chair Patty Lundstrom. And then Representative Hockman Veal is chairing what they're calling the mini Doge. And I don't know exactly what they're going to be doing either, but I do think that an action for us to consider would be some outreach from a collection of folks that are on the Zoom with Madam Chair Lundstrom and Madam Chair Hockman Vigil, just to see if there's anything of interest to the city that might be crossing their committee.
Okay. I think that's probably a good idea, but should we wait should we just reach out to them from the city? Or is that what you're recommending?
Yeah, I think I could do it just informally and just see if there's some way we can plug in better and then report it up the food chain.
Okay, that sounds good. Would you do that, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Thompson or Mr. Park? see. There, I don't see any hands up. Okay.
Great,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you both. Okay, let's go to item agenda B, report from federal lobbyists on the federal budget. And that would be Mr. O'Donnell. Mr. O'Donnell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So earlier today, I sent both Mr. Anderson and Mr. Manacucci, Mr. Parkinson, and Mr. Padilla about a two and a half page memo that addressed where we are with the FY26 appropriations bill. And also some comments that relate to the last report you gave or heard about where Medicaid is in the reconciliation process at this point. So I'll start with the FY26 appropriations. As you've probably heard from staff, because there was no FY25 appropriations bill and we're working off of a continuing resolution, there were no earmarks in FY25 and no earmarks in the continuing resolution. So what we heard from the congressional delegation in February and March was that they would, if there were going to be earmarks again this year, they would probably give priority to resubmitting earmarks that had been requested and included in marked up bills for FY25. So that essentially means that on the House side, Congressman Vasquez has resubmitted the Real-Time Crime Center. That was 1.184 million. And Congressman Stansberry resubmitted the CSI vehicles at 800,000 and senior stability shelter funding at 1.7 million. On the Senate side, and we don't know this for a fact at this point, although I think there's been some exchange between Mr. Parkinson and Senator Lujan's office, and I've heard from Senator Heinrich's office that they were resubmitting the priorities as priorities, what they had in 25 bills for the city. So there's a forensics lab earmark that Senator Heinrich got 908,000 for, and Congressman Stansberry got 800,000 for. Senator Heinrich and Lujan have a violence intervention prevention earmark for 1.035 million. And then there are two minority business development earmarks, one for 200,000 and one for 300,000. And then they both supported a $2 million earmark for the city's largest, I think that's the West Side homeless facility. So we think that by next Friday, not this Friday, but the following Friday, the Senate earmarks will all be on the websites. Congressman Stansberry's, all of hers are on her website. Congressman Vasquez has 8 of 7. You won't see the cities on there. I don't think it's on there. It may be, but he's going to do 7 earmarks, I think, additional 7 earmarks that will be on his website by Friday of this week. So that's what's going on with appropriations, and I'll be glad to answer any questions on that before I turn to reconciliation.
Anybody have any questions? Okay, no questions. Mr. O'Donnell, you want to keep going?
Okay, on the reconciliation legislation, as you know, the House finished its bill last week with a very narrow vote of 215 to 214. It did have a significant number of Medicaid provisions in there that would reduce the spending at the federal level and cause states to have to pick up more of the cost of the program. They did they increased from 10,000 to 40,000 the state and local tax deduction that had been ratcheted down in the 2017 tax bill. And they did not touch tax exempt bonds. So those are probably two of the biggest items. On Medicaid, one of the provisions, and Mr. Menachuzzi asked me to look into this. One of the provisions in Medicaid that would have an impact on local governments and state government in New Mexico is this requirement for work, which was explained to me by a healthcare person in New Mexico at the state, that one of the things about this provision that would require people to work to qualify for Medicaid is that he said there are a number of people who suffer from either physical or mental health situations that would not be able to be employed. They would qualify for Medicaid, but they're not really able to work in a job like other folks are. So there could be a large number of people that would not be covered by Medicaid in the future. I won't go on about a lot of the details because you can read them in the memo. But one of the things that I did highlight there that was, I found that as of June 2024, Medicaid and the Children's Health Program enrollment in New Mexico was around 768,000. And the total spending in New Mexico in FY22 was on these provisions on Medicare and CHIPS was 8.1 billion, covering approximately 33 to 34% of the state's population. And the federal government paid nearly 83% of those Medicaid costs. So you can see what a dramatic impact some of these Medicaid cuts or changes would have. Now, I'll say this before closing. The House bill is what the House bill is. The Senate has got several senators, both Republicans, Josh Hawley from Missouri and Senator Murkowski from Alaska, who have significant Medicaid costs in their states and get a significant amount of federal funding for people on Medicaid. Both of them have said that they will not vote for a bill that has Medicaid cuts in it. Senator Hawley on Monday said that he had spoken with the president over the weekend, and the president said there would be no cuts in Medicaid. So we'll see how that plays out during the month of June, because the House and Senate Republican leadership would like to have the reconciliation package, including a tax bill, done by the 4th of July break. I think it may have been said earlier it may have been Mr. Thompson who said this. They may make that deadline. I'm not sure that they'll be able to do that. There have been reports that some people think this may go on into August, and in August they're going to go home on recess, so they would only have the rest of July to work on this. So it's going to be a rather contentious month of June on the Senate side, because already you have a number of senators who've said that what was sent to them by the House is not what they see as a workable bill. That brings me to saying one more thing about appropriations for FY26, which is that there is talk now, and Mr. Pagonis and myself were on the Hill last week meeting with appropriations staffers and on the House side. And several of them said that they are not sure that we'll see an appropriations bill for FY26. We may wind up with another continuing resolution. One final point about legislative priorities here is the surface transportation bill has been addressed in hearings on both the Senate and the House side. They hope to have draft bills by the end of this year so that they can get a reauthorization done before the current surface transportation bill expires next year. And I believe the city, and I know Mr. Cog submitted some recommendations to our congressional delegation about provisions or concepts, proposals that they would like to see considered in the reauthorization. As we move further along in that this summer and into the fall, I think we'll probably be doing some follow-up with the delegation and the Environment and Public Works Committee and Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. The real press on the part of local government in the surface transportation bill, and when I say local governments, I mean the National Association of Counties, the National League of Cities, the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and National Association of Regional Councils, is they want to see more funding put into the surface transportation block program that is controlled at the local level by your MPO. That's always a fight with the states on that, but we'll see how we progress with that. Madam Chair, that's the extent of my report.
Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell. As always, it's very, very thorough. Are there any questions for Mr. O'Donnell?
Madam Chair, I have one more thing to add. I have a draft letter that I've done for the city to send to the two senators about the impact of Medicaid in the community. I don't have a lot of statistics. I have a couple, but I will send that draft letter to folks for your consideration.
Okay, I think that's a good idea. And then we can look at it, and then we can talk about it and then sign on to it if we all agree. Good idea. Okay. Any questions? Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item agenda C, other business. Anything anybody wants to say? Everybody's very quiet, very stoic, straight face. There's a smile. Okay. All right. No other business. Then this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.